This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
It's Monday, the 14th day of August. I thank you so much for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Just so you guys know, I've gotten some of your notes and emails over the last few days, weeks, that you didn't like these commercial advertisements dropping in over the top of the show. And I've been working with my partners, my content partners at Salem, who produce and put out this podcast. I think I explained this to you. I don't want to bore you with a lot of stuff, but I just wanted to tell you off the top, I am listening. I am working on it. And we're trying some new strategies so that this AI program that places advertising outside of the show where we actually physically produce the advertising. I think everybody understands this. But anyway, there's basically a program that's just sticking these things in the middle of spots where I might have a pause, and that interrupts the flow of the monologues or the content, and that's irritated some of you, and you've let me know. I hear you. We're working on it. Thank you for your patience and understanding in this brave new world of handing over this product for commercial advertising, trying to do it diligently and purposely and not in a slipshod manner. So thanks for your patience. We're trying to create some, hopefully some ways to get around the show from being as intruded upon and interrupted as maybe it had been over the last few weeks. Thank you for your patience. Thanks for downloading this and giving it a 5-star review and a written review. I appreciate it. Look, the only way this show works is when you listen, when you share it, and when you support the great advertisers that make it work, like John Ruhlman, the guy that offers the best possible rates on health insurance premiums. If you do not call John and you buy your own health insurance, you could be costing yourself hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars a month. 1 5-minute phone call with John, and you tell him, here's what I pay, here's what it covers, show him the policy, and I'll bet you money, he says, I can do better than that. I can get you 30 to 60% better rates. When I tell you that everybody from senior citizens to young, healthy people with young families have called John and saved hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month, I am serious. People that listen to this show have stopped me to say, thank you for introducing me to John. In fact, I want to hear your personal story. If you found that to be true, that you called John and you saved money, or you got a better health insurance plan for the same amount of money or a little less, let me know. I want to sing John's praises. I want to hear your story, and I don't need, down in the weeds specifics, but I'd love to know. Small business owners, I know, save a ton. If you insure employees through your small business, that's a lot out of your monthly top line costs. I know health insurance premiums are a lot of money for yourself, your family, and your employees. So please, if you're young, there are plans out there that are mind-blowingly inexpensive that cover you amazingly if, heaven forbid, you get sick. But you have to call them to find out about it. Don't just keep paying the premium every month and wincing when you do it. There is a better way. And John Ruhlman, usmedicalplan.com. Watch my video conversation with him. We talk a lot about all kinds of matters of health insurance and what's covered and what's not covered, and what you might think is great insurance really isn't at all. A lot of warning signs to look out for. Go to chrisstigall.com and watch my video with John, or call him today or reach out to him. usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or 877-410-4321. Well, the all-important Iowa State Fair was this weekend, and I typically wouldn't lead with something like the Iowa State Fair, except I think Kari Lake's auditioning. I saw this clip over the weekend and just laughed and laughed and laughed. I shared it with so many people. It's just this, folks, is why I think she's auditioning. Would you agree with me? I think she wants the number 2 slot. I think she wants to be on the ticket. Now, with whom? I don't know. My buddy Kurt Schlichter, and we're going to get into this in a while too, at Town Hall, has said, oh, absolutely. He's a DeSantis guy. And he said DeSantis can win. He's absolutely in it to win it. And there's a path, and Kurt's going to explain how he can get there. All right. So Kari Lake could easily, do you think Ron DeSantis would pick somebody like Kari Lake to run with him? I think Trump could for sure.
Trump for sure. DeSantis, I don't know. Well, that's tough.
You think she's not his speed, maybe?
Probably not.
I really dig this. She's sitting down at a she's on a stool, she's on a milking stool, preparing to be shown how to milk a cow. Now, Carrie Lake's a former news anchor of many, many years. She's from Arizona, ran unsuccessfully for governor of Arizona, and just an incredibly smart, personable woman. I love this lady. She is having the chance to speak with her a couple of times, both in a professional setting and then just one-on-one briefly. She is as sincere in person as you would hope. But what is so remarkable is her composure, whether you're talking to her one-on-one. This is something she would say in a small group of 3 people. And this is something she'll say in front of a gaggle of press with a live audience in front of her. She's seated on the milking stool about to milk this cow, and she turns to the press and gives them this.
Which one of you's from the New York Times? You know there's only 2 genders, right? There's only 2 genders, and they know that in Iowa. I challenge the New York Times reporter and the Washington Post reporter to try to milk a cow and then try to milk a bull and see how that goes.
Isn't that fantastic? What a great point. It's just a simple, but see, that's how powerful communicators communicate. This is a simple demonstration of what nature is. You're not going to milk a bull. Go ahead and try. I think there's some jokes out there, but not suitable for the show. Just brilliant. And I guess I'm going to have to give up Skittles now. I didn't see that. Skittles is trying to Dylan Mulvaney my candy. I can't have anything. I can't enjoy myself for nothing. Candy brand Skittles is, although I was already told it's laced with something that's terrible for me and I shouldn't eat anyway. Remember that? I brought up that I really enjoyed Skittles, I don't know, a few months ago, and I started getting bombarded with, do you know what's in that? And I said, oh, well, now come on. If we're going to start talking about what's in candy, I mean, no, but what's in Skittles is really bad. I'm pretty sure there's nothing in the 4 original food group, 8 or whatever the food groups are. Whatever we learned from the Department of Health and Human Services is the food pyramid or whatever, which people even argue about that now. But I'm relatively sure you don't find Skittles going back to biblical times. But anyway, candy brand Skittles facing backlash after partnering with Glad, altering some of the packaging to include Black Trans Lives Matter. Boy, they really walked the plank. Bud just went with the dude dressed up like Audrey Hepburn. They went the full gambit, didn't they? Images of the packet on social media prompted an outpouring of criticism on Twitter, with many likening the woke marketing to Dylan Mulvaney being used by Bud Light. It's the 4th year Skittles has teamed up with Glad to support the LGBTQ plus community by amplifying the celebration of stories. I mean, I suppose the whole rainbow thing was a natural fit, but here again, I've never gone in to the store and picked up a bag of Skittles and saw any political messaging on it, but now that's been ruined.
Whole new meaning to taste the rainbow.
Taste the rainbow, indeed. That's exactly right. The Iowa fair, the state fair, had an interesting moment with RFK Jr. over the weekend. Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. walking back remarks saying that he would support a federal ban on abortion. This is interesting. I didn't know that he said it. But boy, if this doesn't speak to how powerful the pro-abortion lobby is and how scary it can be. I suspect, now remember, there are people like Naomi Wolf. I remind you, people like Naomi Wolf who are friends of his, personal friends of his. We've done the interview with her here recently. She's a huge fan of his. She wanted to see him as the number 2 on a ticket with Trump. She's a classical liberal. And you'll remember that people like Naomi, I use Naomi Wolf as a jumping off point because she's civil and she's sane, and she and I have had a really interesting discussion on abortion. And the last time she and I talked about abortion, she's a pro-abortion lady, and I'm a pro-choice guy, okay? A pro-life guy. And she really drove home some points in my head that I've thought a lot about, and I lead with now. And she taught me a little bit more about how to communicate. But one thing I know about her was she's pro-choice. She's very pro-abortion, or the option of it. So I don't know if it's people like her. I don't know who got a hold of him, but man alive, did he back off this. Now, he's, not that this matters anymore to say it, but he's Catholic. And as I understand it, our resident Catholic on the show, Fast Eddie, that's a no-go. At least I always thought it was, abortion. I mean, there are many pro-abortion Catholics, which is a weird thing, but, no different than most of the mainline denominations that are, pro-gay marriage, pro-gay clergy, pro-trans gay clergy. So, I mean, I'm not throwing stones here, but I always thought one of the core tenets of the Catholic faith was, let's not kill babies. At least it used to be, right?
Yeah, that was pretty much my entire Catholic life has been, yes, you're pro-life. Yes.
And unless RFK Jr. is a different denomination or faith group, I don't think he is. I think the Kennedys are all long-standing Catholics by tradition.
Yeah, the exception has always been for Democrats, sadly.
Yeah.
They're allowed to be Catholic and pro-choice.
But he went as far as to say something that the Republicans have kind of tied themselves in knots over. RFK Jr. just dove in, apparently, at one point. In an interview with NBC News at the Iowa State Fair, over the weekend, Kennedy said he would sign a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks or 21 weeks of pregnancy if he were elected president. Now, what does that say? What do we take from that? That RFK Jr. can say that definitively. Yes, I would sign a ban on abortion. But DeSantis and Trump can't get there. They won't do it. How do you read that? Now, he's backed off this quickly. Quote, I believe a decision to abort a child should be up to the woman during the first 3 months of life, Kennedy told the outlet, adding that once a child is viable outside the womb, I think then the state has an interest in protecting the child. I'm for medical freedom. Individuals are to make their own choices. But then, later on yesterday, Kennedy's campaign team said the candidate misunderstood the question. It was crowded and noisy. And so they reissued a statement saying, today Mr. Kennedy misunderstood a question posed to him by an NBC reporter in a crowded, noisy exhibition hall at the Iowa State Fair. Mr. Kennedy's position on abortion is that it's always the woman's right to choose. He does not support legislation banning abortion. So let me go back and read the quote. I believe a decision to abort a child should be up to the woman the first 3 months of life, adding that once a child is viable outside the womb, I think the state has an interest in protecting the child. The statement of clarifications said it's noisy and he misunderstood the question. Pretty nuanced answer for a guy that misunderstood the question.
He has to have advisors, right? You don't just run for president without somebody helping you, correct?
Sure. And donors.
So I think that maybe he's the first Democrat to tackle this Republican charge of infanticide. Like how far do you want to push into the term as far as abortion goes?
Exactly right. And so instead of trying to define it, his advisors said, no. If you want any chance to win the nomination with the Democrats, you're going to have to say abortion always, and that you're not going to get in between a woman and her decision to abort a child even after she successfully had the baby in a failed abortion. We can still kill the baby after it's alive outside the womb. That's how radical they've become. And that's the position that he's going to have to maintain. It's interesting to me that the answer specifically about there should be no government involved. What was that? They reframed. Let me get this right here. Mr. Kennedy's position on abortion was that it was always the woman's right to choose. He does not support legislation banning abortion. It's interesting because his original quote says, I then think the state has an interest in protecting the child. I think the state has an interest in protecting the child outside the womb after the child is viable. I think the state has an interest in protecting the child. This is the one time that you will find conservatives on the side of a statement like that. I think the state has an interest in protecting the child. You typically do not hear conservatives say the state has an interest in anything. But on this, on life, and this is where this is, again, I don't mean that I'm not going to spend a lot more time on this. Just it's notable to me that the one place that Democrats do not want government is defending and protecting lives of children. They will insert government in literally anything and are actively attempting at this point. But when it comes to, again, providing for the common defense of life, where are they? They want no government at the border, for instance. They want really no government when it comes to crime. And they want no government when it comes to just the very basic tenet of protecting a human life. When it comes to those issues, and think about that really, when you really think about it, they want government in the middle of everything you do except for providing for the common defense of life, the border, security, domestic tranquility, chaos, murder, chaos, gender dysphoria, kids being butchered, the state, in fact, when they want the state involved with kids, it's to take their kids from parents or make their parents criminals. If they want to stop and inject themselves in their kids, disfiguring themselves in the name of gender. So I don't know. The Democrats are an incredibly mixed up bunch, but notable to me that RFK Jr., without equivocating, said, oh, yeah, I'd sign a ban. You betcha. That's him telling the truth. I wish, I'm name the last politician you saw with a statement that clear. It's sad that his advisors got a hold of him and made him change it. I believe a decision to abort a child should be left up to the woman during the first 3 months of life. I would rather, I would rather a Republican say this. I really would. And I know a lot of you who are pro-life would disagree with me. But I would rather hear Republicans say, I believe at some point we have a responsibility to step in and stop someone from murdering a life. I even if you want to debate and dance on the head of a pin about when life begins, I would rather somebody say, there's a point, I have a point, and after this point, we have a responsibility to keep that life alive and not kill it. I would rather that than this kind of hemming and hawing about whether I would or wouldn't sign a And RFK Jr., for half a second, had it. He nailed it. He threaded the needle there. Viral crazy plane lady. Have you heard about this woman? Do you know about her? We live in an era where, I think we talked about her. We live in an era where nobody trusts anyone. And you understand why. You can't trust anything you see or read. Incidentally, have you seen all the footage of that horrific fire in Maui? Is that the saddest thing you've ever seen? Almost 100 people dead from this massive fire that's just swept half that island. But you know what I couldn't get over every so often when I would look at my news feed this weekend? How much footage there was in the middle of fire on an island. Where's the footage of the Canadian wildfires? On an island. I want you to think about this. There were people with cameras standing in the middle of an island. Granted, it's Maui, well-traveled and everything, but no shortage of aerial and on-the-ground footage of half of the island swallowed by flames. Where has the Canadian wildfire footage been? Where was it? Where is it? Where are the stories about it? I'm still asking, has it been extinguished? Still asking for the firefighters that we sent there, what was it like to battle it? Did you ever hear about that? Did you ever see it? No. And again, this is one of the things that when I made the point on social media, it probably was one of the biggest points that I've ever had shared and reshared and reposted, because everybody feels the same way. It's odd. We live in a 24/7 news cycle where there are cameras standing in the middle of Maui fires. I mean, there are guys on the street. There was unbelievable footage. People standing in the road as embers and flames blowing right past their camera, catching buildings and plants on fire. Horrific. But no real meaningful footage of the Canadian wildfire. So we live in an era where nobody trusts anybody. COVID broke everybody, appropriately so. Nobody believes what they're being told about much of anything anymore. So when you see this woman in July who stood up on a flight from Dallas to Orlando screaming, I'm telling you, get the F off. There's a reason why I'm getting the F off this plane. And everyone can either believe me or they cannot believe me. That MFer back there is not real. You can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not. I'm not going to. You seen this video, Fast Eddie? Did you see her?
I did, yeah. It went viral very quickly, and it had legs. It didn't stop. People were obsessed with this lady.
It also helps that she's a pretty attractive lady. I mean, let's be honest. The only reason people like this make news, typically this would be a lunatic who maybe would get news for a while, but the fact is she happens to be a pretty good looking. She's an attractive woman. Younger woman. Tiffany Gomez is her name. Or Gomez, G-O-M-A-S. I don't know how you say it. So she gets up screaming and yelling that the MFer in the back of this plane's not real. You can sit here and die with him or not. I'm not going to. And she's taken off the plane. This thing went all over the place, and I don't remember whether I brought it up or not. But everybody had to get off the plane. They had to examine all the bags and everything because they thought it might be a credible threat. And then once they determined that she was just whatever she was, that there was no credible threat, this thing went around and around and around. Now, why did it go round and round and round? Why do you think it is? Yeah, one, she's pretty good looking. So whenever anybody's doing something and they're attractive, that's instant viral. So setting aside that she's attractive, why else do you think this went round and round and round and round? I'm open to ideas.
She claims she saw a demon, right? Like that the thing was a demon?
Not real. Right. Whatever she said. That MFer back there is not real. Nobody knew what she meant. Everybody, like the camera went pan back. At one point, somebody's holding a cell phone video of this whole thing. And so they kind of pan back, and it's just people. It's just people just sitting there. And so everybody was speculating, what does she mean? What has she seen? What is she talking about? That person's not real. We live in this era. It's happening more and more and more. I see it all the time. The Maui fires are another example. There are people now that believe the Maui fires were set. There are people I saw, and I can't even believe I'm saying this. There are people, lots of people, and you can find it readily and easily. There are people that believe lasers started the Maui fire. So I'm not sure what to say about that, other than I understand it. I know the era we live in now we've so been broken, and we are so mistrustful. I mean, we live in an era where a woman who now thinks she's a man shoots up a Christian school, and to this day they still will not release her manifesto for us to read. There's a lot. I don't know why we never saw the Canadian wildfires. I really don't. I don't have an answer for you. And I'm not saying conspiracy. I'm just saying, I don't know. They said 10 million acres of wildfires were burning, and that smoke was so thick at some points it would waft down into the continental United States, and that we would have to go indoors. And our air quality was questionable because the Canadian smoke was so thick. But yet we never really saw the fires. So, you get this woman shouting that MFer's not real. Do you think people believe her? Do you think people are entertaining? When they see this footage before they know the context, they're entertaining what? That she's sitting next to an alien? A terrorist? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I absolutely think that's plausible. I think it's like that, what was it, the green dress, gray dress, or whatever the hell that color. That's exactly, there are people online who absolutely think that she was sitting next to something not real.
Well, for weeks, people speculated as to who the woman was, started conspiracy theories. She disappeared after uncovering some nefarious government plot. This from Breitbart. As it turns out, the woman has been identified as a 38-year-old woman called Tiffany Gomez, a marketing executive from Texas. In a video posted to X, formerly Twitter, Gomez apologized for the incident. First and foremost, I want to take full accountability for my actions. They were completely unacceptable, distressed or not. I should have been in control of my emotions. This was not the case. They say she lives in like a $2 million house in Texas. She apparently does very well for herself. Good-looking people do well, generally. You ever seen a broke, good-looking woman? And she's either successful on her own merits or she's hooked up with a guy who's got cash. Have you ever seen a broke, good-looking woman? Seriously, I've never known a broke, good-looking woman.
I can't say that I have.
So yeah, she lives well. She's, I guess, in her early 30s, some sort of marketing executive, lives in a $2 million house, and she's screaming that MFer's not real. So the police report says that she's mad that somebody took her iPod or her earbuds, whatever they're called, the Bluetooth streaming headset. Anyway, she further apologized to the people on the plane and her use of completely unnecessary profanity. We all have our bad moments, some far worse than others. Mine happened to be caught on camera for the whole world to see multiple times. Addressing her newfound virality, addressing the fact she went viral. Gomez said she did find some of the responses funny while thanking her friends and family for supporting her. It's been really comical for everyone, and I've highly enjoyed so many of the memes. On the flip side, it's very invasive and unkind, and I don't know what I would do without the love and support of my family. I hope that I can use this experience and do a little bit of good in the world, and that is what I intend to do. I hope you guys can accept my apology, and I can begin to move on with my life. So I wonder... There are people who genuinely went down the rabbit hole and committed themselves to the idea that this woman was some sort of was warning people on the plane or warning others around us that she'd uncovered some kind of plot. There are, I would suspect, maybe millions of people that think that they spent a lot of time on this woman. And then she just kind of comes out and goes, sorry about all that. Sorry about And by the way, no indication she was drunk or high. The police report doesn't seem to suggest she was intoxicated. She doesn't seem to suggest she was intoxicated. She just stood up on a plane full of people and said, that MFer back there is not real. I'm getting off this plane. And if you want to stay on here and die, you can stay on here and die. I'm leaving. So there's a lot about this. Number one, like, nothing happens to her. Can you do that? That feels almost terroristic. Feels like she should be charged with something. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you just, especially if people had to deplane, yeah.
Yeah, the whole flight had to get off. They had to rescreen bags and everybody on it. They were like 2 hours late because of this woman screaming and yelling, that MFer's not real and everybody here's going to die. If you want to stay here and die, go ahead. No charges. Nothing. And the internet writ large speculated, what was she onto? What did she uncover? I don't know, folks. The only reason I share that with you is because I saw people, even conservatives I know, carrying on about that woman and giving that story all kinds of gas, and I couldn't figure it out. I don't jump to conclusions about anything. I ask questions about a lot of things, and then I ultimately wait to see what the answer might be. And I keep asking questions when I don't get answers. Like the Canadian wildfires. I still do not have satisfactory information on the Canadian wildfires. I will continue to bring it up and ask. That's not a conspiracy theory to ask. I still don't have any indication as to how these wildfires in Maui started. And because nobody's curious about how they started and how it is and why it is that we've never heard of an island in Hawaii catching fire like this. Never have I heard of this. Never. Not in my lifetime. I'm not saying it can't ever happen. So, people are sending me notes. Well, Stigall, here's how it happened. Well, Stigall, this is what it was. Taking their own best guess at it, but not because anybody's officially investigated it. People just have their own best guesses. I appreciate that people have their own best guesses, but my point is, why doesn't media want to know? Why don't we get full reporting on these things? Why don't people want to know about a woman screaming that MFer's not real on a plane? Why don't people tell us the things that you and I need to know so that people don't lose their minds? There's this vacuum. It seems that every day I do this show, the theme continues to be some form of either gaslighting, people telling us things that are plainly untrue, that are provably untrue, or just leaving out critical information and never going back to fill it in, leaving people to just backfill in their own creative minds what we just saw, what it really is, or what it might be. Was there really smoke in the air last month, 2 months ago, whatever it was? Was there really heavy, thick smoke? Yeah, we all saw it. There was something. But you see, because nobody really has had adequate footage of the Canadian fires to this day, Fast Eddie, do you know that there are people walking in our midst right now that believe that was some kind of government-infused toxin? I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm not. But do you know that's true? Do you know that I've had people come up to me and say, I haven't felt right since that smoke. So-and-so's gotten sick since the smoke. So what's a guy who prides himself on being reasonably intelligent and has a microphone, and I feel some responsibility to you to tell you the truth and get information as best I can? What am I to do with that? Am I supposed to laugh in their face and go, what are you talking about, you lunatic? You think that smoke was purposely sent down here to make you sick? I mean, what am I supposed to say that to somebody face to face when they come up to me and go, I'm so glad you're talking about this because I don't feel well after that smoke? What do you say? What do you say? What am I supposed to say? Ha ha ha! You lunatic! It was fires. It was just smoke. It's total coincidence that you don't feel well. Can you blame anyone?
No, I mean, they haven't shown anything to prove otherwise, so what the hell?
That's the problem. I mean, these are the things that drive me crazy. These are the things that I think a lot about, more than I'd like to be perfectly honest with you. Because if you saw the things that I see in my email box sometimes, from people supposing this and imagining that and wondering this, and did you think about that? I mean, there's some people that are kind of tipping on the edge a little bit. And what used to be, an overnight radio show or Alex Jones or something, what used to be just kind of relegated to a couple of specialty shows in my genre are now, they're untold probably millions of people who go about their daily lives wholly suspect of literally everything they see all the time. Nothing is as it seems to millions of people in this country. And that is because of a dearth of news coverage. That's because of a dearth of journalism. That's because of gaslighting. That's about government corruption and collusion with social media to keep people from seeing things that are real and true. Terrible damage has been done. COVID, I think, had a lot to do with this, if not maybe most to do with it. The shot, the masking, the quarantining, that scared the hell out of people, me included. It made everyone profoundly aware of powerful people manipulating baseless assertions like masks will protect you, quarantining will protect you, shots will protect you from catching the virus. Those all proved to be baseless, and it alarmed people deeply. Well, if they're willing to use baseless information to corral us and we all comply, what else could they be cooking? So, I don't know. That was on my mind today. I didn't really intend to lead with the plane lady screaming, but it kind of, again, crystallized for me in my mind that so much of what we see in the news today leaves people feeling everything from mildly confused to downright conspiratorial. Almost every week, there's something like this anymore in the news. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years now. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, it's really a thrill for me to have both the dentists, my daughter and Dr. Jared Geddes. One of the things that I love about them both is when they don't have a patient in their chair, they're in my room watching what I do and trying to learn from me. And we hear enough about the new generation, and they think they know everything and they don't want to work. And I've got two dentists who are really, really want to learn and really, really willing to work hard. And I enjoy learning from them. They brought some new skills and some new technologies to our office that will be great benefits to our patients. And so, if anything, I think that having them both there is going to expand and lengthen my career as opposed to shorten my career.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. And here's what I have found to be true. The death of Rush Limbaugh left an indelible hole in all of our hearts who loved him as just a communicator and a broadcaster and a part of our lives for the 30 years he was doing shows. But he also was sort of this central hub. He was sort of the community watering hole, if you will, for all of the Serengeti of conservatives. And it was kind of where we all kind of gathered. And it doesn't mean that everybody agreed with him, and it doesn't mean that everybody didn't stray from things he had to say, but he was still sort of the authority. He was first in. He was the McDonald's of conservatism. Billions and billions served. And everybody else was Five Guys and Burger King and Wendy's, and, you know, they were doing their thing. And I'm not even saying they didn't make a good product, but everybody understood that there was still McDonald's. And Rush was McDonald's. Rush's death left a terrible hole there. And things change and things evolve, and that's fine. Tucker sort of picked this up, and Tucker became the rallying point for tens of millions of conservatives, and people would watch him on Fox, and a lot of the conversation, I think, was driven by Tucker and his healthy skepticism and his challenging of authority, questioning conventional wisdom. And then Fox fired Tucker. And yes, millions of people have followed Tucker over to Twitter, but, you know, it's always different when somebody goes to social media. There isn't a thing anymore where lots of people gather around. I've talked about this already. The idea of everybody turns on a thing at a certain period of time during the day or evening and watches this thing and gets their information. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said, oh, no, I would every night. That's all. I'd turn on Tucker to see what to make of this or that, or if the world was on fire, I turned on Tucker. There's not a figure like that anymore. And I'm talking about a national figure. I mean, I'm grateful you're here, and I do my best, but I don't hold myself out to be those guys, and I'm not trying to be. No, there isn't, and by the way, I miss them too. I similarly would go to them for their take, and there is no rallying point. Everyone has been dispersed. And so what that's caused is everybody in my business, whatever this business is, whether you want to call it digital media, broadcast media, streaming, whatever. Everyone's now in the business of look at me, 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 look at me. Because that's the only way any of us make money now is download this, click on this, look at me. First of all, I will just say I am thrilled that the bulk of my career was before that. And in this new space that we're in now where everybody's, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm probably never going to succeed at the level that some of my colleagues do because I don't have it in me. Did you see this? Look at this shocking video. I can't do it. I don't have it in my soul. I have to sleep at night. I have to answer to my Lord and Savior. I just can't. I can't wake up every day and go, "Fall, ladies and gentlemen. I'm fairly sure this is it. This is Armageddon. Today's the day the world ends." You know, and then later my team puts out a clip that says, Stigall predicts Armageddon by end of week. Click here to find out how you can be safe. I readily admit that's what's selling now. I readily admit that's what's getting clicks now. I readily admit that's the way the world works now. And it's a ride that, while I'm not getting off it, I'm coming closer to the station than I am just boarding the ride. I'll tell you that. So I do what I do as best I can, and I recognize that there is a dearth of, I'll just say thoughtful information. There's a dearth of thoughtful information. As such, that brings me to last week's drama, because I wanted to put a bow on that as well. The Fox News debate coming up on August 23rd. Fast Eddie, I got a call from senior management, the suits.
Uh-oh.
As it turns out, I've upset the people at Fox.
Oh, Chris.
They weren't happy with me calling attention to their little legal memo last week that said none of us in commentary can air any footage of theirs more than 3 minutes in length during this debate. Again, just briefly, I won't relitigate it. You can go back and listen from last week if you want, where I tell this entire story. But long story short, most of you already heard it. Fox News says no more, in our hour and a half, 2 hour debate, None of you who are analyzing it the next day can air any more than 3 minutes. And then after that, you can only air it for 7 days. And after that, it's hours, and you can never return to it again. You can never reference it again. You can never play it again. I simply called them out and said, that's not acceptable. We've never operated like that ever. These are public officials. This is fair use. That's outrageous. And I let some of my colleagues know about it, and I shared it on social media, and it turned into a bit of a thing. It became a bit of a kerfuffle. So senior management, my broadcast partners at Salem Media Group, telephoned me on Friday to say, Chris, the Fox people are a little peeved with you. I said, oh, do tell. They said, well, listen, here's the thing. We don't disagree with you. We think you're right. But here's something you should know that you may not know. And I'm just going to tell you because I don't care. They said, we here at Salem are trying to secure our own debate with the RNC. I didn't know that. Did you know that, Fast Eddie?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're trying to secure our own debate. And so they said, as such, we're in this weird spot where we're trying to arrange a debate that we will host. And so what they were saying to me was we're in a spot where we're trying not to tick off people because we would really, really like a debate. And I said, well, and now mind you, they didn't tell me to stop speaking. They didn't tell me I couldn't talk. They didn't say anything. They were gently trying to say, we really would like a debate. And you sharing all of this is making Fox mad, and this might make the RNC mad. And I said to the suits, I said very, very candidly, we would never do this, though, right? If Salem Media Group ever got the rights to broadcast a debate, we would never put these arbitrary and capricious rules on coverage of it. Would we ever? They said, no, most certainly not. I said, and that's my point. I said, I understand proprietary rights to airing something. I understand exclusivity and the partnership and all of that. That's not my quibble. My quibble is after. We would expect attribution. This clip courtesy of Fox, this clip courtesy of Salem. I get all that, but so what's my point? My point is there were a lot of people reacting to this on social media in a confusing way. They said, well, Stigall, who cares? Nobody watches Fox anymore. Just don't watch Fox. Don't watch the debate. And then other people would say, well, Trump's not even participating in the thing, so who cares? Now, I would just say to you Trumpists, and I am one, keep in mind, I would just say that's a completely short-sighted and idiotic take. Trump participating in this debate is not the point. Fox News airing it or not airing it is not the point. I am talking about the future of all of us who cover debates and talk about debates when it's over. All of us in the commentary space, all of us. I don't care if you're Alex Jones. I don't care if you're Dana Lash. I don't care if you're Breitbart. I don't care if you're me. I don't care who you are. If you're Jack over at Human Events, pick your favorite person that you watch. I don't care if you're Tim Pool. If we're held to the standard after a debate with public officials that none of us can use footage except 3 minutes in length, and then it's archived forever at foxnews.com and we're never to return to it again, if those are the new rules going forward, you and I are worse off for it. The public is worse off for it. Those are rules I don't choose to live by and I don't accept as a broadcaster and a commentator because we've never operated under those rules. And this world that we've created, back to the vacuum, I said this a little bit last week, we've created this world where we're Roman Colosseum all the time. Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down. And so there are a lot of people that don't understand the severity of this and why it's important. It's Fox News, screw them. Trump's not participating, screw it, who cares? No, pull back, bigger picture. There will be a day when Donald Trump is not running for office, not holding office, not a candidate anymore. There will be a day, ladies and gentlemen, when Donald Trump's not alive. Like you and me, Donald Trump too, we will all perish from this earth. There will still presumably, if we still have a country, be presidential elections, and there will still be media covering presidential elections. And as such, for everyone who covers and discusses presidential elections after they're over, and Donald Trump is long gone, we should all care that there is a vibrant and robust access to public officials and those who are seeking the highest office in the land that there can be a wide dissemination of that discussion and a wide parsing and availability to parse that audio and that video. That's why we should care about this, not because of Trump and Fox. I don't know if you've been following the career of Dennis Quaid, the actor and singer. He's got a brand new gospel album out. He's also the star of a brand new summertime film it looks tremendous. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks really inspirational. It's called The Hill. It comes out Friday, August 25th, and it's the true story of professional baseball player Ricky Hill, who grew up in a small, poor Texas town, and he had this extraordinary ability for hitting a baseball, but he had leg braces and this degenerative spinal disease, so he's a big hitter, but they always assumed that baseball was a far-off dream that he could never achieve. His dad was a pastor and hoped that Ricky would become a pastor himself, but Ricky decided he was going to try out for the major leagues in front of a scout, and he pushed hard to overcome the disability, and he went on to become a baseball phenom. It's a true story. It's called The Hill, starring Dennis Quaid, Colin Ford, and Scott Glenn. And there are so few movies these days that are, one, feel-good movies, inspirational movies, but two, movies that the whole family can enjoy. It hits theaters Friday, August 25th. Once again, it's called The Hill, rated PG. Don't miss it. You can get your tickets now for pre-order in most cities where the theater is showing the film. But again, it's due out in theaters Friday, August 25th. It's called The Hill, starring Dennis Quaid. Hope you'll check it out. When Friday, the current Attorney General rolled out and said that David Weiss is going to be named special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden, my first reaction was, wait, the guy that's been investigating Hunter Biden for the last 4 or 5 years has now been appointed special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden? So we reached out to our most trusted resource on the matter because he actually served as the former acting Attorney General of these United States, Matthew Whitaker. He's co-chair of the Center for Law and Justice at the America First Policy Institute. Mr. Whitaker, thanks for kicking off the week with us. I'm just trying to figure it out. I sincerely, like, how do you with a straight face say the guy that's been investigating this guy is now going to investigate the guy? I don't get it.
Hey, Chris. It's good to be with you.
Thank you.
And greetings from the capital of Iowa, Des Moines.
The big state fair. I assume you were there this weekend, by the way.
So I was there Saturday. I was there last night at the Eric Church concert, and I'm going today. My good friend Eric Schmidt, U.S. Senator from Missouri, is in town, and I'm going to take him around the fair and show him what I love about it.
Yeah, you guys are just going to run around and tower over everyone at the fair and scare the villagers. Two big hulking men, the both of you.
Eric makes me look little.
So what of this, Matt Whitaker? I don't understand. Sincerely, like, I'm setting aside any kind of partisanship for a minute, just as a structural legal matter. You were the AG. What sense does it make to put the guy who's been investigating for 4 or 5 years special counsel? Does that make sense?
Yeah, we got a lot to unpack this morning on this because, the regulation for the special counsel, DOJ passed it in 2001 after the independent counsel statute expired and Congress didn't reauthorize a new one. And the whole purpose of it is when there is a conflict of interest that goes across the entire Department of Justice. And so that nobody, the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, Associate Attorney General, none of the Assistant Attorney Generals, none of the Assistant U.S. Attorneys, so that everybody essentially has a conflict of interest. And so it's always, and it says and suggests that you need an outside lawyer to do this job because nobody can do it. And so to appoint Weiss in this role, first, you have an inconsistency with the regulation. But second, to your point, is now you're pointing the exact guy that kind of screwed up this case from the start. It's taken so long to bring any charges, and then ultimately to, in addition to that, also, cut this sweetheart deal, Chris, that just, I know we talked about it, and I said that I would laugh at anybody out of my office that would have tried to bring those type of charges. And, at the same time, even the judge said, has this ever been done, a deal like this? And the government had to admit, no, they'd never seen anything like that in their lives.
So just to be clear, I don't know that David Weiss is an honest broker or not. I don't have any feelings about him. We're led to believe from the whistleblower he wanted to bring charges and DOJ said no. Is that your understanding per the whistleblower testimony?
So there's two kinds of U.S. attorneys. I mean, obviously they're appointed by each president. They serve. They try to do their jobs in a nonpartisan, non-political manner.
And Weiss, I'm sorry, Matt, to interrupt, but Weiss is a Trump appointee. Like, he's the last U.S. attorney that's a Trump appointee, right?
That doesn't get you very far when you realize that he was essentially a career guy in the office for a long time.
Right.
And he's not, we don't know if he's a Republican or Democrat. Yes, he's a Trump appointee, but in Delaware, there's not a lot of conservatives. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
It's not like Iowa. It's not like Missouri.
It's like Mitt Romney's a Republican, in other words, that kind of thing.
To my point.
Yeah.
And so, and so I guess, I say that to say this, that we have a situation where you also have two kinds of U.S. attorneys. I was active. I tried cases. I argued appeals. You also have those that sort of sit above the office and just manage. And so, if I'm reading the tea leaves on this, I have a few data points. One is he had a different team that negotiated the plea agreement with Hunter and was doing the investigation. There's an AUSA named Wolf who's been mentioned several times. And then if you see at the Hunter's plea deal, they had a different trial team, a different team come into court to actually do that court proceeding. And so I'm wondering if Mr. Weiss saw what the previous team had done, knew he was being criticized by people, including myself, and I think maybe he is taking more control of the investigation. But I don't think right now I'm going to be on the side of, I think Weiss is still trying to get rid of this case to the advantage of the Biden family. I don't think he's actually trying to do justice or, be a tough, prosecutor on this case.
I don't think we've talked to you since the judge threw out the plea deal. That judge may well have saved this thing from just evaporating into the ether, like clearly the DOJ and the Biden administration hoped, and in fact created a whole slew of problems for the Bidens that they hoped would go away. I think that judge is the pivot point in this story, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. But remember now that they have an ability, now that Weiss is special counsel, he has an ability to take this case anywhere he wants. And so he can now take it out of this judge's courtroom and avoid this judge if he prefers. And that's, I think, one of the things that I've been reading about over the weekend. Is that part of the strategy and part of the, I described it on Hannity this week as a chess game, that each move that Merrick Garland is making, is trying to win the game. And I think he's trying to win it for Hunter and his boss, Joe. And so, I think that you have to read and look at this appointment of David Weiss as the special counsel as just another chess move in the ultimate game of trying to, get Hunter to avoid spending time in prison.
Matthew Whitaker is with us, former acting attorney general. Briefly, I'll ask you about this prosecutor in Fulton County, Georgia, Fannie Willis, her name. Headline from The Hill, Trump's legal team connected to Georgia voting system breach. The story from The Hill reads, and it invokes Sidney Powell, who, many people didn't feel was a terribly serious person at the time. But I guess it suggests that they have evidence that Sidney Powell was somehow involved in some sort of physical involvement with machine investigations post-election. I don't know what they've got. I don't know what's real, but how do you read that? I assume there's going to be another indictment coming. Is that concerning to you versus the other indictments?
Certainly this is all concerning. It's concerning for the rule of law. But my biggest concern, Chris, in this case that you're talking about, in the most recent previous case on the January 6th stuff, is that prosecutors are using statutes that the legislators and the executives that signed these laws never intended them to be used. It looks like you're going to have a RICO statute, a racketeering statute, used in this case down in Georgia, and previously you've had these statutes that were passed as part of the response to Enron, the response to voter suppression in the Reconstruction South in the 1870s. And so it seems to me that sometimes things. There are not laws that apply to certain behaviors, and oftentimes laws are passed in response to things happening. But, when you're just going to try to shoehorn this set of facts into these novel and untested legal theories, I think that, that's where, kind of the rule of law and equal justice under the law, I think, breaks.
I'll let you go on this. Trial dates, I know Jack Smith wants to hustle and get something to trial. I mean, they want some kind of Trump conviction well before the election, don't they? I don't know if they're trying to push it even before the nomination process, but how do you see this timing out? And will they get a conviction ahead of it?
It's very clear to me that they do want to drive all of these cases to trial. However, the defendant oftentimes, if they're willing to extend the trial date, can usually gain time in the process. They can't avoid the trial ultimately, but they certainly can push it. And, if you're a candidate for president, I don't know how you prepare for trial between now and November of 2024.
Matthew Whitaker, former acting attorney general, live on the ground in Iowa this morning. Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for your time today.
All right, my friend. Good talking to you again, Chris.
20 years in business. Congratulations to Mike Lindell and MyPillow. 80 million pillows sold over those 20 years. Can you believe that number? Well, Mike and his team at MyPillow, they want to thank each and every one of you for giving them such success over these many years. And now they want to celebrate by giving you the lowest price in MyPillow history. He told me that if you call or log on to MyPillow.com or call them today, you'll get a queen-size MyPillow to celebrate their 20 years in business for just $19.98. 20 years and just about $20 with tax. How about that? $19.98, that's it, for a queen-size MyPillow. Do you know the regular price of this thing is almost $50 more? So you're talking about a $50 discount. By the way, for the king size, you'll get it for just $10 more, $29.98. It's a huge sale. And incidentally, in addition to these pillows that are deeply discounted right now, you go to MyPillow.com and you'll get a discount using my name, Chris Podcast. Use that as your promo code, Chris Podcast. Click on the radio listener square and enter that. And you're talking about mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, sheets, and of course the pillows, so much more. You can try it on. If you've gone to MyPillow.com and you've thought to yourself, maybe it's a little expensive, now's the time. Celebrate 20 years with Mike Lindell. And know this, 10-year warranty. 10 years they warranty these things. So if they ever wear out or you have trouble, you can exchange for brand new. 60 days they let you take this stuff home, and if you don't like it, you can send it back for a full refund. So you got nothing to lose but a great night's sleep on MyPillow products. I've colleagues I've sent these my slippers to. They love them. Christine loves hers. The sheets are comfortable. The towels are super absorbent. Even old Dean loves his dog bed. And we drink my coffee here at the office every day. I just brewed some this morning. MyPillow.com, promo code ChrisPodcast, all right? With that warranty fully intact, or call 800-932-5056. 800-932-5056, promo code ChrisPodcast. Or MyPillow.com, promo code ChrisPodcast, if you please to save. Now, CNN reports Trump heckled at Iowa State Fair. No, sorry. Trump arrives at Iowa State Fair with group of supportive Florida lawmakers. Sorry, as DeSantis gets heckled. CNN said, now, I didn't see that either. Was DeSantis heckled?
I thought he was. But, like, what I saw was when the Trump plane was flying overhead, and everybody kind of...
while DeSantis was there on the ground.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. There were a bunch of DeSantis surrogates who were tweeting all weekend long that Trump looked old and he looked tired, and this was the pivot point, and now Trump is cooked, and it's all downhill for Trump, and DeSantis is winning the day, and blah blah blah. I've tried pretty hard to tell this audience that I'm not actively rooting against any of these men or women. I'm not, except Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson. I loathe them. I'm rooting against them. I don't dislike the rest of these people. I don't have any reason to fundamentally dislike them. They want a nomination. They're trying to become the Republican nominee. They want your vote. Why should we heckle and mock and yell at may the best man or woman win? I don't understand this unless you're a paid surrogate or you're hopeful. Well, look, yes, I do. I shouldn't say I don't understand it. Let me be very honest with you. I know people connected to these campaigns. And I personally, Chris Stigall, talk show host, could benefit greatly, personally, if I had friends connected to the highest office in the land. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I won't say that I don't understand it, but I will just tell you so that you do understand in case you don't. When you see high-profile people on Twitter who seem to be all in on one of these guys hardcore and trashing everybody else, it's because they're all very, very hopeful for an invitation to the White House when their guy gets there. They see themselves wearing the black tie to the formal gala, the swearing in, the inaugural. They see themselves perhaps as a cabinet post, or they see themselves as a staffer, or they see themselves as one of the secretaries, staffs, or something. I mean, there's something in it for people who actively get behind the candidate and start whipping their audiences, telling you that one's the loser and one's clearly the strongest. I have friends in both camps. I have friends in Trump's camp. I have friends in DeSantis's camp. Quite frankly, I know people that are very close to Ron DeSantis's campaign. Personal friends. And if I just wanted to sell my soul and tell you dishonestly, not from a place of honesty, but dishonestly, what would benefit me personally? I mean, telling you honestly, but behaving in a dishonest way, I would come on here every day and say, Trump's a has-been, lock him away, he's old news, let's move on. DeSantis is the real deal, he's the only guy that can win. Ron DeSantis, go, go, go. That's what I would say to you if I wanted to benefit myself and this show. Because I think this show has far more to gain, probably, with a Ron DeSantis presidency. If you want to know the truth. If I'm just being honest. But nobody has approached me and asked me to do squat. Nobody's approached me and said, hey, could you lay off DeSantis? Or, hey, could you talk up DeSantis? Or, nobody's approached me because I'd like to think people that know me know better than that. I've pledged that I'm going to give these people a fair hearing and be kind to them and admire and cheer them. And may the best person win. I refuse to lie to you, though, for my own gain. It's too gross. It's too... I'm grateful to work for a place. I'll close with this the way I opened early this morning. When the Fox News people called my employers Friday and said, hey, your guy is really kind of roughing us up. And we don't like it much. We don't care for that. And, gosh, we'd hate to make trouble with the RNC because we know you guys are Salem's trying to secure their own debate. For those of you that haven't heard this and missed earlier, I'll just tell you again, my employer, my broadcast partner, Salem, they're trying to secure their own debate. Like Fox is having a debate in a couple of weeks. They're trying to get a Republican debate. Salem is. And so Fox basically called Salem and said, hey, your guy is making a lot of noise about our legal requirements. And it'd be a real shame if we had to lean on the RNC and make trouble for you in trying to get a future debate. So you understand that my broadcast partners are sort of in this spot where they want very much to bring you the content of these Republican candidates debating. They don't have any time they don't want to wrestle and fight with Fox needlessly. They don't want a bunch of expensive lawsuits and this sort of thing. And I respect that and I don't blame them. I'm not mad at them. And by the way, they didn't ask me to shut up or stop talking. They just kind of wanted to talk me through what my concerns were. And I asked my broadcast partners, I said, if we get this debate, are we going to implement rules like Fox has? They assured me, no, we would never do that. I said, and you guys understand, this sets a terrible precedent, what they're trying to do with these debates. It's a terrible precedent. They said, yes, we totally understand. But unfortunately, the RNC makes these arrangements, and they lock in, and now they've locked in with Fox, and we're kind of over a barrel. And so, as Sean explained to us earlier this hour, Sean Spicer just said, well, the RNC is in this interesting spot where they partner with people like Fox, and Fox says, we will put on the show at no cost to you, but you basically defer to us. Sean says that's a terrible model. Of course it is. So Fox effectively owns the RNC, is effectively what we've learned here. which is a pretty dispiriting situation. Keep in mind, the Fox people went to Trump last week and said, please come debate. Please be a part of the show. We're spending $2 million to put this thing on. Please be here. No one will watch it if you don't. And it sounds like, according to Sean Spicer, Trump's going to say, no, I'm not showing up. He's going to counter-program, perhaps. And now, I actively hope for that. Before, I was ambivalent, and many of you harumphers that I polled said you thought Trump should participate. And now, you know what I hope? I do hope Donald Trump goes to Tucker. I do hope Donald Trump goes somewhere else. And I do hope he puts on a show with whomever. I hope he puts on a full-blown show that counter-programs Fox. I hope Fox has a dismal failure of a debate. That's what I hope. It is high time that we break this system, this monolithic system, this one-party system, this Fox News-driven system. It's gross. I'm tired of it, and I'm not going to kiss Fox's ass any more than I'm going to kiss candidates' asses or associates of candidates' asses. I'm not doing it. All I have left is my integrity. That's all I have left. That's it. I'd rather not do this than come on the air and lie to you. I'd just rather not. Like, if the day comes that I've got to just swallow it and kind of come on and give you a half-truth because I don't want to upset a friend, is the day I really should quit. And it's the day that all of us should quit. And I'm sorry to say there are a lot of people in this business that are not only not thinking about quitting, they're actually perfectly happy to pretend to feel one way or the other to personally benefit themselves. I don't need this anymore, to be perfectly honest with you. There was a day in my life where I would have done anything to keep this. I'm not there anymore. I love it. I love being with you, but I'm not willing to compromise my soul to keep it.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.